Welcome to Matters of Decorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I've accumulated an awful lot of skills over time. I did not know when I was accumulating them what I would be using them for, ultimately. I had some ideas. They were mostly wrong-ish. No one... Well, I suppose these days you can go to school with the idea that you're going to be a professional game master. But back in my day, I was going to be an actor. Or something. I had grand plans for going to the Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena. A little time at community college theater knocked that out of my system, but just about everything that I studied at some point in time came into play in what I do today, both as a hobby and as a career. I'm a trained storyteller. I actually took classes that, in combination, are a course in storytelling. I was a theater arts major, and when I went to St. Louis Community College at Merrimack back in the 80s. Actually, I was a communications major with a theater arts focus. Communications is a really interesting course of study, and I actually recommend it. For me, it was a great place to meet people. And it had a lot of useful skills to teach me. As a game master, part of what I do is storytelling. A large part of what I do is storytelling. You have to learn to paint a picture with words, to inform all five senses verbally, and more when more senses come into play. You've got the classic five, sense of hunger, sense of thirst, sense of fear, sense of magic, sense of psionics. How do you translate that? Where do you get the basis for using those words? I had an accelerated English course. I like to write. I started writing when I was 13, and just, for fun, typing on a typewriter, not even an electric typewriter, one of these manual things that came in a hard case. Wore it out. Took typing every chance that I got, from junior high on up. Learned on an IBM Selectric 3 with black tape over the keys, so you had to learn to touch type. Did the acting. Never took an acting class in high school, but I was in every play that the school put on, so I think that kind of counted. And then took acting courses. A lot of acting courses. Acting, script writing, screenwriting, set design, costuming. Costuming came a little while later in Santa Monica, but costuming. And that was on top of communications, oral communications, interpersonal communications, oral interpretation. That's a good one. That sort of bridged the gap between a lot of communications and a lot of acting classes, of taking the written word and immediately converting it into something people might want to hear with your voice. How to read things with accuracy and emotion. Group dynamics. Now, group dynamics turned out to be something really special, because I didn't know it at the time, but I was studying how to organize and maintain a group of players at my table, or how to operate as a player at that table and retain a certain amount of control over the situation. Group dynamics is a great course to take if you're going to be running games. Even if you just go to a community college, they've got a course in it. While I was doing this, I fluttered about a lot in college. Then there was art, basic art, figure drawing, cartooning. Oh, cartooning was a good one. I haven't taken any digital art courses because there really weren't any back at that point in time. That was all high-level college stuff. I studied the digital art entirely on my own. Practice for something for a couple of hours a day for 10 years or so. You require some kind of proficiency. Martial arts, kept myself fit. Humanities. Broadened my mind. Read some stuff I wouldn't otherwise have read. And that helped. See, I'm not a fantasy gamer. I'm a space gamer. I'm a sci-fi gamer, but I dug into some other genres. And more to that, I dug into some philosophy and essays that questioned concepts of ethics. I liked that. It made me ask questions. And I enjoyed asking those questions. I still enjoy asking those questions. I just do it in a different format now. I received my associate's degree in theater arts in 1989, I want to say. That was a busy year for me. And looking back, there was a lot of other stuff wrapped up in that. Psychology, abnormal psychology. I threw my brain at statistics back then, and I had a pretty good grip on it, but I did not get along well with the teacher because she spoke entirely in circular references and broken English, and it wouldn't soak. I just couldn't absorb it. And I've studied statistics since then, and it wasn't necessary to teach it that way. I can calculate a standard deviation. I rarely need to, but it's nice to know. Took more courses heavily into psychology when I went to Santa Monica City College in 91. Took some courses at El Camino Community College, which is the one closer to me now. I wanted to meet girls when I moved out here to California, so I took a communications class at El Camino. And met this tall Finnish woman, a little older than me, blonde, green eyes. Liked the same cartoons I had liked as a child, and liked at that time, in fact. We've been married for over 30 years. Communications is a great way to meet people. Neurological psychology and more theater craft and nail statistics and finite mathematics at Santa Monica City. Great history courses, had good teachers. It is a bundle of information that I use, again, not every day, but when I am sitting down at a table and rolling dice with people, I have that basic knowledge of statistics that lets me know what the chances are there's going to be success or failure. I've got that grip on English and oral interpretation so I can convey what is being seen. I'm writing on the spot. Now, a lot of creative writing. I started taking creative writing in high school. I'd started doing it sooner, but a lot of my teachers didn't really think creative writing was a worthwhile pursuit. Parochial school, go figure. I was running games and playing games the whole time I was doing this, from the middle of high school. Actually, my first day in high school, the kid I sat next to in my homeroom, Pat Cooper, our names were next to each other alphabetically, had just moved here to St. Louis from New York and was looking for a Dungeons and Dragons game, and I had never actually played. I'd read the books, I'd painted the figures, I'd rolled the dice, I'd drawn a million dungeons. I'd never done it, so he managed to get a group together, and I never looked back. I tried running some games in those first few years, so I was bad. But you're not a good game master until you spent some time as a bad game master. And, I got to junior college, I got to Merrimack, and I joined their role-playing game society, the Knights of Ithilien. And taking those courses while I was engaged in the hobby at a fairly high level. Those were some bigger and better gamers than I. I still kind of sucked as a game master, but I was picking it up. I ran a couple of games. They weren't all that popular. That is fine. I was learning, and they knew that, accepted that, and helped me through it. And then they ran excellent games. But I could see from day to day, oh, group dynamics. This is how group dynamics worked. I could help organize the group a little bit. I could convey concepts better. There were a lot of artists in that group, and they helped tidy up my art style. I need to get back to drawing some more pen and ink. I've got the Cintiq over here, so I'm going to be doing it, digitally with Photoshop. But you can simulate pen and ink pretty well with the Wacom, and I need to get back to doing a little bit more of that. By the time I got out here to Santa Monica City College, gaming and learning was about the same thing to me. I found before I started going back to school, when I moved to California, I found a gaming group and invested in a lot of 3rd edition GURPS books and played a lot. So as I'm taking finite mathematics, I'm seeing the numbers working. I'm seeing how to manipulate them and tip the odds or arrange the numbers such that your odds were better. I could understand, to some degree, how my brain was working. Neurological psychology is another really, really great course. If you get the opportunity. It's a little higher level, but still junior college level. And psychology is a great subject to study, but man, digging into the mechanics and how the wetware works, that's good stuff. I've written a lot about neurology in both Hot Chicks and the Victory System. I didn't learn anything I did not turn around and apply. I was using my gaming knowledge, or using my college knowledge at my games. But while I was between classes, I had a book that I was rolling dice from, doing sketches and drawing things. It all became part of the same pursuit. It was during this time I really started learning the tools that were going to set me up. When I started gaming, my home computer was a Commodore 64. Those were the days. when I finished high school, my mom, who had been a stay-at-home mom and a very dedicated one, decided it was time for her to work. But she wanted to work for herself. So this is 86, 87. My parents invested a great deal of money in a desktop publishing rig for her, Macintosh all the way. I don't even remember which model of Macintosh. It was high-end and big, and she used a program called PageMaker, and I loved watching her do it, and I learned it. We went to college at the same time, my mom and I. She was picking up her desktop publishing certificate while I was working on my theater arts degree. We had a couple of the same classes together. That was interesting. I love my mom. We had some problems. I'm hard to live with, go figure. But in that academic environment, I really got to know her, to understand that she thought a lot of the same ways that I do. We took a physics class together, and I really enjoyed that. Sorry, I'm getting back to hardware. I had a Tandy laptop the size of a VCR when I went to junior college. Monochrome screen this big. The printer never worked. I took notes on it, and it worked out pretty well. I worked in the school's computer lab, the English department's computer lab, on Apple IIe's. And I practiced a lot of writing there in the off hours when I wasn't checking computers out to people. Eventually, I got my own Macintosh, a Macintosh SE30. The toaster, about yay big with the screen like that, and I wrote a lot on that. Did a lot of my academic work for college, for Santa Monica. Had Macintoshes for a while, moved over to PCs. A little while after we got married, before the 2000s, maybe like 98, 99, and started using Excel heavily at home. Incorporated in my games, I could use Excel to make spreadsheets that would simulate character sheets. For things like GURPS, absolutely necessary because of all the detail involved. Then I started using it to design my own miniature systems. Not a whole system, not for quite some time. Excel. Word. I did a lot of writing in Word because at that time PageMaker wasn't really that good of a word processor. My mom could compose in PageMaker, but that's because my mom's kind of incredible that way. I would compose in Word and import to PageMaker. When I set up shop, when DeCorum Unlimited became a gaming studio, I learned Poser, 3D figure modeling software. I started at Poser 2. Currently, it's Poser Pro 2014, more than a dozen iterations later, and Posers as a program cost between $200 and $700 depending on how you purchase it. Over the years, I've spent $17,000, $18,000 on models and add-ons and textures and poses and whatnot to help speed up my workflow. And I really need to take a 3D modeling class too. Haven't done that yet. Probably something I should think about doing. I've dabbled at home, but over here's the beast. An Asus computer with an awful lot of RAM and a big hard drive and a really fast processor, and I can't remember the numbers and names. It's a PC. Running Windows 10 because it insisted. I've got my Wacom Cintiq, big drawing screen. It's amazing how it all comes together. It's amazing how you take these. I took classes like a drunken monkey staggering up an escalator, a down escalator at that. There was no direction. There was no real focus. Yeah, communications. I'm going to be an actor, so I'll take what I got to graduate. And oh, I like art, so I'll take art. And oh, I need a science class, so I'll take optics and physics. And I never studied anything that I haven't incorporated into my writing. I've never written anything that wasn't touched by something that I learned, either in some of my mainstream courses or elsewhere. I have a bachelor's degree in religious education from Concordia University in Irvine, California. I don't use it. Well, not professionally, not for what it was intended. I worked for a while as a director of Christian education for a couple of churches, and it didn't work out terribly well. I'm pretty good at it, but I'm bad at politics. I was bad at politics. I'd be better now, but they would hate me a lot more. That being said, you'd think what I learned at Irvine is probably stuff that doesn't find its way in, but it does. The theology and the psychology, education courses, practical application courses, going out in the field and doing things. And it all still matters. How to really write a paper, MLA format, and citing your sources and writing convincingly. Even the theology has a strong philosophical basis that I can still go to. So, long and the short of it, associate's degree in communications, most of a transfer degree in psychology. I could not get past the political science requirement at Santa Monica City College, not in the early 90s, and I couldn't tell you why. It just bored me until I couldn't push the information into my head. So I'm a couple of credits short on that by now. I'm sure they've expired or whatnot. Bachelor's of Religious Education. And the electives were as important as the core courses. Communication, psychology. Even the hypnosis I studied comes in useful from time to time if I want to really draw someone's attention or sneak information past people. You want to say you've been fair as a game master, but if something got mixed in a way that people didn't really listen, or listened but didn't think it was as important as it was going to be, I like getting surprises. I like being able to do one or two unpredictable things in a game. That's the enjoyment I get out of it. A decent computer. It's a gaming computer, but I do rendering on it. Poser at this current point in time is fairly processor intensive when it comes to making pictures, and I make a lot. For even a small supplement, there's got to be 10, 15, 20 renders, and as complex as I like to do them, that can be a lot. PageMaker has gone the way of the dodo. It no longer exists. The company that made it, Aldus, no longer exists. But its functionality was picked up by another company and pushed forward, and then picked up by another company and pushed forward. It is now currently called InDesign. It is part of the Adobe Creative Suite, and I pay $50 a month to have access to all of the Creative Suite software that's InDesign and Photoshop, and Premiere, which I'm going to be using to edit this the moment I'm done recording it, After Effects, and a bunch of other programs that you find a use for them. You have them, you find a use for them. You go buy a new tool, you find things to make with them. InDesign is my page layout software, and it is invaluable. I can compose in InDesign better these days than I could before. It's more of a word processing application. Word is still better as a raw word processor. If I'm writing a novel, it's going to be in Word, but filling in text and to make a book work out right in InDesign is fairly simple. You don't know anything that you cannot use. If you're writing games or even just writing, everything in your head is grist for the mill. It took me a long time to realize that, and sometimes I still need to sit back and think about what it is that I want to produce and what pieces I've got in my head. I get bogged down in what I would like to have access to, instead of settling back with what I've got in here and putting the existing pieces into a cohesive whole. I need to go back to school. I need to take some courses, computer modeling, and maybe something in... I need to see if I can finish political science in California. That would be just a goal I would like to achieve. Some more psychology. Get some of that back under my belt. I enjoyed studying psychology and how the human mind works. Animal psychology, heck. You're right. You create, you're making art, you're writing games, you're writing novels or short stories, you're creating, you are using resources. And it's not like you can expend them, but you don't want to use them that often because you start to get repetitive. Go put more stuff in. Thank you for following me along on this ramble through what it is that I know and I do. I hope you found some of it useful. If you have any questions, comment, let me know. I'm happy to answer anything. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. I enjoy getting comments. You'll enjoy leaving me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this video. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see me do in the future. I still have a list. I need to work through it. If you really dug this video, subscribe. If you really enjoyed this, subscribe so you can see these videos when they come out. I enjoy getting subscriptions. It's one of those numbers I check all the time. And subscriptions are one of those ways that I increase my view count. And better view counts mean I can do this more often and for higher quality. If you do subscribe, hit the little bell symbol next to the word subscribe so you get the notifications about when these videos come out. If you really dug this video, feel free to hit me up on my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum. Consider donating something. Absolutely anything helps. And the more Patreon donations I get, the more videos I can do, the more this becomes something that I can carry myself with. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I'll see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.